Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here doing a review for Avengers Infinity War. As the title suggests, there will be spoilers kind of in the second half or after a couple minutes. For this, I'll probably be like shooting through the non-spoiler section because it's so freaking insane. But right now, I'm kind of decked out loot crate style. I just got this shirt. I just opened up my loot crate in my last video. So it's like, well, I'll wear this. I haven't even worn it out. Like I just put it on and switched out of my Captain America shirt, which is what I actually did wear yesterday when I saw the movie. Got my Infinity Gauntlet oven mitt. But man, it was a good movie. So spoiler free segment here. Definitely see it. If you've seen the other movies, there's like no reason not to see this movie. It's the culmination of everything. Like that's pretty much all I've been hearing. Like every post is pretty much how it's not just like, oh, it's just, it's the new Avengers where everybody's meeting. It's like this is 10 years of people meeting, some people meeting each other, some people hearing about other people. Finally, all that stuff coming together, characters interacting or interacting technically for like only the second time in the entire cinematic universe. So sometimes it's very first meetings, which is kind of like the big thing. Is like it's first meetings of these characters coming up against these characters, and of course Thanos finally coming down as the main villain, where he's been there since the first Avengers, but kind of just been like out there. So highly recommended. Definitely a good movie. Definitely funny. Obviously, the Guardians of the Galaxy, they're like the comedy element, but there's obviously stuff with Iron Man and, his side of the story. So, like, every different story has comedy moments, but the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff is definitely where, like, the comedy is. Like, Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor is such a good mix for comedy. It was, like, perfect in the movie. Just everything they did with it, I thought was super, super funny. But the comedy was good. The action was good. The story in general was really good. I like the way the pacing was done between all the different stories. There's like 4 different, sections of heroes throughout the storyline. So I thought that was really cool. And Thanos, I thought was a really good villain, and he was really entertaining. And it was he was like the main character of the movie, honestly. And excuse me, I kind of love it for that because it's like we've had these characters, we have so many of these characters too. It was like I'm curious how this will play out as far as who is really the main character, and it really was Thanos. Like it's more on his backstory. Some of that comes from Gamora, which that's a given, obviously, unless you have not seen Guardians of the Galaxy. So there's a spoiler there. But once again, you have to have seen all the. You don't have to have seen all the movies, but it just makes it a lot easier because you know the characters, you understand them way better. It's just like if you see this for the first time, it's a cool movie, but it's like it's that 10-year build up that kind of helps it. So definitely a fun movie. Highly recommended if you haven't seen it already. Recommend seeing it twice just because it's a cool movie. I think it's good enough. But yeah, getting into spoilers, getting into I don't even know really where to start. I feel like this is one of those movies where outside of everything I just said, you can't really go into like this happened without somebody asking a question you can't answer, because every single thing that happened in this movie was like, well, this kind of does this, and then it just snowballs into more questions like, well, what happened after that? And there's a lot of great moments in this, but I love the interactions between all the characters. Everybody meeting for the first time was definitely cool. But of course, the ending is like the big thing that everybody's talking about. It's like, well, what's going to happen here? How's this going to play out? I wore my Captain America shirt because I was like, he might die in this. I was going through, I was like, well, what shirt am I going to wear? And I saw my cap. I was like, he might be dead. So I got to wear Captain America. But, it was just interesting. It was just like, man, the way they did it, I thought was really well done. And it was cool to see. I like the way, it was like this somber ending where it was just like, how is this going to play out? Honestly, I didn't think he'd get all the stones in the first movie because it was like, that was kind of a big theory. It was like, well, he has to get it and then wipe everyone out and then they fix it afterwards, which does make perfect sense. It was like, okay, yeah, I guess he does have to. But I just thought they would kind of kill certain characters, like officially kill them, and then, kind of solve that problem afterwards. But I definitely love the way they did it, going through the whole process. They get to it, and Thor could have done it. He had Stormbreaker, which was a huge theory where it was like, oh, he doesn't have Mjolnir. Well, he'll probably get Stormbreaker because of course that's like the only other really famous hammer. So it was like, of course he ends up getting Stormbreaker, and I just love the way they did that. He hits him and he gets him in the chest, and it's like he should have gone for the head, and he snaps his fingers, and it's just like the comics, and it's just like boom, and everybody 50% of, I guess, the whole universe is gone. We don't, we kind of just see, obviously the main characters. And I think that would have been something that would have been cool if we saw more of random people dying, which we get to see in the post-credit sequence, which I thought was cool. But I would have liked that more. And then that's one of the weird things where it's like, man, I wish we had a little bit more of like the Guardians of the Galaxy style, where it was like way out in space, if we got to see more of the planets. But it's like the only planet that we knew where it was like, yeah, he got the stone from this planet. It was like, well, that's where those were like the only other characters we knew, and he wiped them all out. So it was like, well, they can't show that planet and like some of those actors disappearing because technically they're already dead. So it's like, man, I wish we got to see a little bit more of that because most of it was Earth or just the main character. So it was like, you know, it kind of hits, but at the same time, it doesn't have that same, you know, intergalactic impact that it technically does. But I still thought it was great. It was like just the way they do it, where it's like, did he do it? Did he not do it? And I was curious how they were going to do it because I was like, is it just going to be like, boom, they disappear? Or, you know, and then they end up showing it. And it's like, no, you get to see people disappear over time. Like they start to like crumble in the dust. And I thought that was great. I was like, well, that's a cool way to do it. And, you know, it starts with the Winter Soldier and he vanishes. And then people are just, you know, dropping left and right. They wipe out like all the Guardians of the Galaxy except for Rocket. He was like the only one that was there. Like everyone else was taken down except for Rocket and Nebula, if you want to count her as a part of the team. But everyone else was just like, all right, you guys are out of here, be gone. So I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming. They wiped out like the entire team. Everybody was gone. But I thought it was cool. I like the way it was handled. Definitely a dark, like reflective ending where it's just like, yeah, we lost. This is it. Everybody's just dropping like flies on the battlefield. All the, you know, the Wakandan army, people just, you know, turning into dust. Of course, Black Panther himself, he vanishes. You know, Winter Soldier, Falcon, pretty much all the Guardians, Spider-Man. That was probably my favorite part is when he did it because he was like, yeah, everyone else it was just like, oh crap, what's happening? And with him, he knew and it was like, I don't want to die. Like he was about to cry and he was scared. Like I don't want to die. So I love that scene. That was my favorite part. And I was like, you know, I didn't expect them to do that. You know, with Spider-Man, it would have been cool if he was kind of left alone with everyone dying around him. But the way they did it was still great too. And you know, of course, you have Iron Man right there, and it's like, you know, I was kind of this kid's mentor and stuff like that, and he gives him, you know, the Iron Spider suit, which was cool. We got to see the actual legs come out, so that was great. But it was a great way to kind of end it off, where it was just like Thanos did his thing, and you know he sits on this wherever he was at, and he actually sits and watches the sunset. Like, did my job. He gets a little smile, and then people just start vanishing, you know, all over the place. So I love the way they ended it, where it's just like, what do we do? You know, what, like, how do we stop this or how do we change it? And he's not even, he's kind of just like, I'm done, I'm good, like I did my villain thing, which he didn't, you know, feel like a villain. He was like, you know, I got what I wanted. See you guys later. You know, I'm like, I'm legitimately out of here, and that is all there is to it. So that was definitely nuts. And of course that, you know, that was the ending. That's like the temporary stuff. We don't even know about some of the other characters and who is not coming back, because in the beginning of the movie, Heimdall, he gets killed off, and then Loki gets killed off, which I assume both of those are official. So they're both gone, and then they have the scene with Gamora where she gets thrown off the cliff, and I was like, dang, they killed her too. So, you know, I'm sure she'll be back. Guardians of the Galaxy. Loki may or may not come back. I don't know what the plan is as far as like future Thor movies and all that stuff, but you know, that was pretty interesting. And they don't even talk about, you know, the other characters that were in Thor and whether or not any of them are, you know, alive. They don't show like references or anything, so I'll just assume they're all dead. But it's a decent way to kind of leave it open, where it's like, yeah, maybe they just escaped to another ship or this or that. They were able to get off the warning signal before everything was destroyed, so maybe some, you know, some of those characters lived. You know, they had a Valkyrie and everything, so maybe some of those characters survived, and we will actually end up seeing them in the future. Maybe they'll come in, you know, in the second movie, like, yeah, we escaped, and you know, here we are. But I like the way it was handled. It was just like a nice somber ending, where it was like, yeah, they definitely lost, and now here's like almost the slow motion version, you know, of a nuke going off, where it's just like people are just turning into dust. You have like Scarlet Witch disappears, and of course is after Vision is killed. So for her, it was kind of just like whatever, and you know, she's just gone. So they did a lot of interesting stuff with that. So looking forward to part two and how that's going to end up playing out. I'm excited if we're going to get any hints from Ant-Man, because they talked about how, you know, he's kind of made a deal, just, you know, just like Bart. So, or Clint, or saying that's, I think that's both, isn't it? I can't even remember right now, but they both had their deal. So I'm curious what hints they're going to give us in Ant-Man and Wasp. And then of course we had our post-credit sequence with Nick Fury, so it was good to see him in there, because I've been kind of waiting. There were two huge appearances that I loved, Nick Fury and Red Skull. That was probably my favorite. That was like my favorite just random comic nerd thing in the whole movie, where it was like, holy crap, Red Skull is actually here, because it was just like this floating spirit, and then he comes down and it's like, Man, that's Red Skull. That's like legitimately the only part where I was just like, oh, like I said it out loud, like, oh crap, like man, they brought Red Skull back finally, because everybody's been wondering where is he at? What happened? Tesseract shoots him up in the air. He's not dead. He's either jumped through time or he's somewhere else. Like something, like we need something, and we find out that he's been kind of dumped on this planet to guard a different stone. And as he says, it's kind of he's there to kind of send people along this path that he could never complete, which I thought was kind of cool. But that was awesome. I was like, I don't think they'll do anything with it, like Red Skull versus Captain America again, because Chris Evans is leaving, so it wouldn't have the same impact, of course. But I thought that was so cool. I was like, that's a great way to do that. And then, of course, he can just kind of be out there, and it's like, okay, well, if we never see him again, it's because he's kind of trapped there forever. So I thought that was cool. I was like, that was a really cool way to do that. And then the post-credit sequence, we got to see Nick Fury come in, and I can't remember the character's name, but Kobe Smulders is the actress. I just can't remember her character's name right now. But both of them come back, so like we finally get to see what's going on with them. Both of them end up vanishing, but we have not only do we have Samuel L. Jackson thrown, like half. It was like mother, and then he disappeared. But he drops his super high tech pager, and he ends up contacting Captain Marvel. So I don't know exactly what that means, because I didn't think that she was going to show up. I thought they were going to save the Captain Marvel stuff for her movie, which unless they change it and that was like a whole trick and I just haven't heard anything, her movie is supposed to take place in the 90s, which I always wonder, like, well, what does that mean as far as her being in the present, because she looked different, or are they just going to say the actress just looks the same, or do CG or whatever. So I was already curious, like, how is that going to kind of play out with her character, interacting with the rest of the universe. And I was like, all right, she's definitely going to be in the second movie. And that in itself was like, well, if she's being contacted, I don't know if he got like, the interdimensional plan or intergalactic plan. But in my head, I was like, are they introducing Sword? Which I kind of doubt, but that would be so cool if they did. Because for anyone who doesn't know, you have Shield, which is Shield as you've seen in the movie and possibly the show if you watch it. But there's also Sword. And in the comics, Shield is like on Earth, and then Sword is like around Earth, and it's pretty much anything that comes from other planets to attack Earth. That's what Sword is. Now, of course, we had the first Avengers where something came from another planet and nothing happened. So it just makes me wonder, like, is she somewhere else? Are they just, because they need a good explanation where it's like, all right, you have the first Avengers, you got the second Avengers, you have all the other movies, which that's a thing in itself where it's like even this one person probably should have shown up in somebody else's movie. But it just makes me wonder what they're going to do with her character. What, like, as far as the comic storyline, where is she going to be when she shows up in the next movie? Because if they try to introduce Sword, it's kind of an easy, I mean, it's Sword and Shield, it's this super secret government stuff, and he contacted her, and they could just instantly be like, yeah, this was something I'd been working on for a long time, but she was like the only person that was a part of it. I was trying to call it Sword, but then Shield fell, so I couldn't make Sword, and then that's just how they introduced Sword, and she could have been on another planet or whatever. So I don't know how they're gonna do it, but either way, I mean, Captain Marvel's coming in, so I don't really care. But it would be super sweet if they introduce Sword. They would have to kind of add in some more characters, but I'm sure they could pull that off. 10 years, I think they got enough time to put one character in per movie. Like, yeah, I might be joining Sword or something. So I don't know if that's exactly what they're doing, but I'm very excited for part 2. They seem to have kept, as far as most of the characters that were left alive or in existence, they seem to have kept all the actors who are going to be leaving after the next movie. I feel like that's why they did that. It was like, okay, so it was like, all right, Black Panther left. He's definitely going to be in another movie. He's got to have his second one. Winter Soldier, he's probably going to take over for Captain America. Falcon, he might take over for Captain America, both of them. So it's like, well, of course they disappeared. And then you have the Guardians of the Galaxy all gone. So it's like, well, obviously they're going to have a third movie. So it's just like everyone that kind of vanished, it was like, well, obviously Spider-Man's going to have a sequel as well. Pretty much everybody that disappeared, it was like, yeah, all those actors are going to be coming back for sure, when we get to our next phase. So it was like, everyone else that has to kind of work for it. Some of them might live, because I don't know exactly how everyone's contract is going to go. But obviously the whole thing was like, well, Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr., like, somebody's got to go. And I thought, of course, they were going to end up killing Robert Downey Jr., but they didn't kill him. Like, the only people that were really left were that kind of have to go on to their next movies is, you have Doctor Strange, Nebula, and Rocket. And then I think that's pretty much it. I feel like everyone else was there. Maybe, if they do end up doing the whole Black Widow movie, she's got her thing. I'm sure we'll see, Hawkeye in the next movie. Of course, we'll see Ant-Man. So, curious how that'll play out. But somebody's dying. They're going to be official deaths or they're just retired. I can't, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's like, I kind of want official deaths just because that would, story-wise, that's so good. Because this is like, even without the comics, it's like, obviously, he snapped his fingers and he killed everybody. We'll just get the gauntlet back. Somebody else snapped their fingers. Everybody's back. That's how it's going to play out. We all know that. So somebody has to like die, but they also can't do that because if they win, they can just bring everyone back to life. So it's like, how do you make that work? So you get the gauntlet, destroy the gauntlet, and then Thanos is like, oh, I'm super mad. And obviously we've seen how strong he is considering he beat the crap out of the Hulk. Maybe he'll just punch somebody really hard and they're dead officially. So who knows what'll happen, but definitely a fun movie. Can't wait to see it again. Love the action, love the comedy. I like the way they introduced all the characters. That was one of the big things where it was like, how are they just gonna kind of have everybody pop in? It was like, all right, this character contacts this character, then like the Guardians of the Galaxy, they just jumped to them because they were going to the distress signal that Loki sent out. So I was like, okay, they just jumped straight to them, but it automatically connects to what we've already seen. So that was that connection. So I like the way all of that was handled. The new stuff that we got to see, Stormbreaker, more Thor with lightning, that just looked really cool when he came on the battlefield. So all of that was definitely fun, but really looking forward to the next part. Definitely want to know what you guys thought about this movie, so please put your comments down in the comment section below. Your favorite parts about the movie, least favorite parts about it. Predictions for the next part, like who will permanently die, who is going to be brought back first, how are they going to get this gauntlet, from Thanos, who, that we saw get killed off before just like the blinking out of existence thing. Mostly Loki and Gamora. I don't think Heimdall is coming back. But Loki and Gamora, how are they going to be brought back? Stuff like that. So I would love to know your predictions. And like I said, definitely what you guys thought about this movie in general. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.